Welcome to Spiritual Rockstar Podcast, where world-changing spiritual entrepreneurs come to deeply awaken the power within to bring forth their greatest purpose, to create massive awakened impact for millions of souls around the planet, while enjoying being in tune with all life and real wealth in all aspects of their lives. I'm your host, Daniel John Hanneman. Welcome, everybody. Oh my God, we're here for another Spiritual Rockstar Podcast show, and we've got, it's all about your guides, all those mystical connections. There's so many opportunities for us to drop in, connect, be connected. See what's happening there? We're already starting to feel those connections more. Because when we put more attention to it, all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, I'm connected. So Marilyn's going to be sharing with you as a master at helping you to connect with your guides and everything. Like, I can't hear the guides. Where are they there? Isn't that, is this even real? She's going to help you with all these sorts of things. It's so much more, and I can't wait to dive into it with you in just one moment.
Want to meditate and make money? Let it be simple. Let it be easy. Let it be fun. Go to yoursacredpurpose.com and get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation today.
Marilyn, I'm so glad to have you here. You know, I've been knowing you for years online. I don't know that we've ever connected prior to setting this all up, but you know, your work's been out there for quite a while helping people. So I appreciate you're on the show today.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And I'm excited to be here. And yeah, when I looked you up, I was like, hey, we're pretty connected. We know people, the same people.
Yes, totally. Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. Marilyn Alauria is a gifted psychic medium, teacher, and coach with an unmatched capacity to ignite deep soul level transformation for her clients around the world. As a creator of Soul Finder Academy and Membership for Your Soul, and host of the podcast Who Can It Be Now? It's like that song, right? I mean, you've heard that.
Yes,
I mean,
it is. That's where it comes from.
That's where it comes from. Okay, cool. She offers a clear action plan for developing our talents, following our purpose, fulfilling our dreams, and living in alignment with our souls. And you can find her at Marilyn Alauria. Alauria.com and find her podcasts out there. Just put it in there. You might seize the song too, but if you put it in podcast, it'll take care of that. Who Can It Be Now podcast. All right. So Marilyn, you've got this amazing, I mean, we will mention you have a book, you know, around guides and how to connect. I'm sure is all in there. I haven't read the book yet, but you've been doing this sort of work forever, it seems like. And I'm wondering, like, how your journey's been. Some of us are like connected from the beginning, right? We're seeing fairies and angels all over, and then we start talking to people about it, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" And you're like, "Oh my God, I thought everybody was tuned in." Like, you know, I've heard that from a number of people, and for some of us, it's kind of in between, and other people, it's like, I had no clue about any of this. All of a sudden, I opened up to all this stuff, and so I'm kind of curious about your path with connecting with the guides, you know, which everybody on this show would know what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's good, right? Instead of having to explain it.
Right.
Yeah, I was connected since I was little, but I don't know that I knew that. I did not know that's what it was, because I was told I was imaginative, I was too sensitive, I was making things up, but I had experiences as early as 3 years old. And I didn't even realize those were those experiences until I really started diving into my gifts about my late 20s, early 30s. And that's when I started remembering everything that happened to me when I was a kid. And I was like, oh my goodness, that's what it was. That's why I was seeing things and having precognitive dreams, which is dreams that come true. That was one of the first things that happened to me. Seeing hands come around corners and lights and feeling all sorts of stuff. So that was my journey. I think when you grow up in a Brooklyn house with a lot of loud people that are all vying for attention too, your voice, you know, you just kind of get confused as to what's real and what's not real. So that's what was happening for me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm here in the Chicago area, but yeah, sometimes, you know, out in that area of the country anyway, it's even much more fast-paced energy, kind of vibration. Not always, but it's a stereotype maybe, but there's a lot to that. There's some truth to it. And so yeah, I got all that going on. They're like, yeah, I could just imagine the scene. I could start tuning into. I'm like, oh my God, like, and you're like, yeah, like, okay, you're picking up on all these different things, and So you were aware of something, but you didn't know what that was all about. Maybe it was just your imagination, and maybe it's not real, so to speak. Like I remember being in school, and we were literally like, there's a few of us, we're all talking about, we see a blob in the school, and did you see the blob? It became a thing, and some people, oh, it's just his kids' imaginations, mass hallucination. But for us, it was like something real. There's a blob.
Mm.
That's what we just called. We didn't know what it was. We're just like, oh, did you see it? Oh my God, And I feel like we'd all be having these experiences, increasingly anyway. If the culture was like, oh yeah, this stuff is normal, it's happening all the time, but we're literally conditioned out of being able to, recognize and see or acknowledge what's floating around all the time, right? I mean,
Well, especially the age that, the years that we grew up in. I mean, that was like the late 60s, early 70s, for me. And I was raised Catholic, so I was heavily into Catholicism in my family but my mother was open-minded Catholic. So in one way, it actually opened my ability to speak to spirits even sooner, because I was already praying to angels, already praying to saints, and they were like my first guides in a way. I was doing novenas and stuff to them, and I knew I was always interested in psychic things and witchy things and all that kind of stuff. So I always knew something was going on, and I would be like, wow, that was so cool. I saw a hand, and then there was a movie about a hand. And so I was making connections, but nobody around me was really understanding what I was saying. And it wasn't until I got older when it really started kicking in and I started mentioning it that I found that it ran in my family, and that
mhm.
my grandmother had it, and my aunt had it, and different people had it. And then, some people in my family think I'm crazy, and other people in my family are like, oh my goodness, of course, grandma, blah, blah, blah had it. So yeah.
Right, right. That's so interesting. I haven't ever really looked at that. I'm not aware of family members having it for me, like at all. But I do know my mom. I remember though my mom having a psychic premonition in a dream, like there was going to be an airplane crash. She saw it in real time coming down. And then she did literally see that exact scene in her life. Like that actually happened. That was
Mm.
the big airline crash back in the late 70s. So it made a big impression on me at an early age that, oh my God, like it didn't happen, like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
It's still really cool when those things happen for people like us today, like when we see those things happen, but we're like, yeah, of course, at the same time. So now with guides, I do feel like a lot of the audience, even though they know what guides are for the most part, I'm sure, they still I bet a lot of them wonder still, like, well, who are my guides? Are guides assigned to us? Do we have certain guides? And then maybe you should just briefly tell them what guides are truly, what your definition of that is. But, are we, I'll ask you so that, you can give your perspective. Are we assigned guides? Do we just have these certain guides, in the light, so to speak, these beings that are there for us? Or how does it work? How does it work?
So I actually think I have a different take on guides than
Okay.
I don't study a lot of stuff out there because I take everything from my guides. But in the book, and the book's called Guides, Mystical Connections to Soul Guides and Divine Teachers. In the book, I do talk that everything is energy and our guides are energy. So guides could be, as we know, people that have lived on the earth before, people who have never lived on the earth. They could be planets, they could be trees, animals, it could be a star, a solar system, a color, light, music. So it's really anything that carries a vibration of energy that you feel connected to and that wants to connect to you as well. And I also find when you work with guides who don't have a physical presence like a human shape, I think they're all incredible no matter what, but it's pretty amazing when you work with a guide that's just light or color, and
Mhm.
you're really starting to tap into information that is outside of our consciousness. And our guides are all about raising our consciousness. So it's really important that we communicate with them. I know you know a lot about this topic, but I'm just going to say a couple of other things. To me, as far as I know, I'm here on this earth, how many years, whatever, we do have guides that are signed with us from the beginning. And then we have different guides that come in and out, but they're different than teachers. We could have teachers that just come in for a short period of time to teach us on a specific skill, or you will have a guide that will help you through a specific period of your life, stay with you for quite some time, and then they will leave. They will never just leave, because that's like somebody leaving a relationship, and that's really harmful and can hurt. They prepare you when they're leaving, and they prepare you when they're coming in as well. My guides are around me all the time because I know where they stand. I know what they feel like. I know what they look like. So it depends. Like I teach, we all have our own instruments. So it's what works for you. But that's what works for me. And that's what I teach. And I've been teaching this stuff for like over 15 years on how to develop a really intimate relationship with your guides. And they're here. We're helping them as much as they're helping us. So it is a two-way street, like any relationship.
Interesting. So if I say, well, Archangel Michael isn't really a guide, it's an Archangel Michael, that's a whole different thing. That's not a guide. A guide, like you said, getting back to the idea, well, they took on a body, and so I think to me, it's all fine. It's like, however you want to talk about it, whatever,
But Archangel Michael is a guide. I didn't say that they could have incarnated on the earth. They could have never incarnated on the earth.
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. I'm saying what other people might think.
People say, oh yeah, that's right? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got their own perspective, I guess is what I'm saying on these things. I just think it's always fascinating. Okay, then we're going to get into a debate maybe even about it. It's like crazy. So it's like, well,
yeah, and why even get into a debate about it? Because none of us really know what happens, right? We're all just here finding our own truth and what to live by. So I agree with you. It's like whatever works for you, and that's great.
Exactly. So yeah, okay, that's cool. Yeah, that they come in at different times. Like Jesus is like a perpetual guide in my life, but Jesus wasn't the strongest guide at first when I started really tuning in. It seemed like it was more for me like Gandhi, showed up as the guide, like the energy showing up for me. And then he started to fade more. Jesus came in stronger. And, so that's what I've noticed. And they don't always, for me, it's not like all of a sudden, I'm not saying you're saying this, but I'm saying it's not like all of a sudden, poof, they're gone. Like sometimes it's just weighing out, like relationships do in the 3D world, so to speak. So it's like they don't, so it's interesting to watch how things unfold. Now, I wanted to talk about, so they're there to help us, but you said, I think everybody gets that part. Okay, great. I can tap into my guides, and we'll get into how to do, everybody's like, how, I don't really get it yet. But let's talk, I wanted to actually, let's actually talk about that first. I want to get back though, like how we're helping them, a lot of people say that too. And I just love to hear your take on that ultimately. But when people say, I don't know, I'm not tapping into my guides, I can barely see them, I can barely feel them. Maybe I'm tapping into something. I don't know. How can they know they're tapping into their guides? And how can they even get started tapping into their guides?
Yeah, it's a great question because I get it a lot. And the thing that's usually standing in the way of people tapping into their guides is mind chatter, doubt. So the main thing that I teach is pick a guide. And in the book, there's actually in the appendix, you can meet a guide. I have 10 guides that were channeled to me that I've given to everybody else. And most people that meet one of these guides, they really resonate with them. And then pick a place where they stand every single time. So if they're to the right of you, they're always to the right of you. You tell them where to stand. My guides came in and told me where they were going to stand, but you don't have to do that. And then every time you talk to them, bring your inner awareness to that spot where they're standing and really listen and lean into it energetically, feeling, seeing, hearing, smelling, anything. And you may not make out what they're saying as clear as clairaudience can be. You can develop it in time, but at least what you're doing is setting the intention, you're setting the trust, and you're also not flailing around like, where are they? I don't know where they are. Instead, you're like, oh, they're right there. They're to my right. And then I tell people to trust for 30 days. Trust that they're there for 30 days. Talk to them for 30 days. Every time you doubt, put your hands up in the air and say, I promise to trust for 30 days. I give this exercise to thousands of people, and I've never heard anybody say they don't have results. Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. And I'm not one of these people like, oh, it's the truth. People are like blown away. Like, it is that easy. We make it complicated.
Right.
Because they're there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for me, like with just tuning in general, I always tell people just trust, just act like, I would say act like you're making it up, like what guidance you're getting. Even
Yeah.
it's uncanny to the mind how accurate it ends up being. You know, like when I teach people to do readings of people, right? I'm like, just make it up. Oh well, you probably this, probably that. You lived in a little house when you grew up. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I know. You said
This is
something so important, Daniel, that I want to bring attention to, that when I was opening up and studying, there wasn't a lot, like the internet wasn't around then, and it was just like one shelf in a bookstore. And so I was lucky I got guides that teach, and they taught me a lot, which your guide sounds like your guides taught you a lot too. So, but I did study with some really well-known teachers, and I have to say, I'm glad they weren't around as much, because they would tell you not to use your imagination. Oh, don't make it up. You know, you're making it, don't do that. And they're in our imagination, they're in our creativity. And my guides were like, what are you talking about? That's where we're hanging out. That's where you have to tap into us.
right.
And then I said to them once, I was like, I asked my guides, I'm like, am I making this up? And they said, who cares? We're giving you great advice.
Right.
And they were right.
Right.
So just go. I love that you said you teach your students the same thing, because there's some really antiquated mediums and channelers out there that are, oh my goodness, the rules they put on it. No wonder why people can't hear their guides. They're like trying to follow a protocol, and it's not a protocol thing. It's a playful thing.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, this idea, I mean, teaching people how to tap in, that it's got to be this strict kind of austere kind of thing to make sure it's pure and it's not something else. And then there's a lot of that too, like non-trust with, I think people get too carried away. Maybe there's something to it, but they get too carried away. How do you really know it's Jesus? Maybe it's someone disguised as Jesus talking to you, trying to throw you off. And I'm like, because I know the energy of Jesus
Yes.
with. It's familiar to me. If it came in kind of weird, I would know that too if I'm paying attention, right? So does it feel like a weird energy? Are they telling you, no, it's good. It's ascension time. Start shooting everybody. Oh, speed up the ascension. Yeah, you might not trust that message, all right? But like you got your own intuition. So, but this idea, I had someone say, no, Jesus has been whatever, so many ideas. He's been sealed. There's no way, and no one could connect with Jesus. Been sealed, and there's just imposters now for Jesus. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so is as wide as the imagination is. There's stories and concepts about what's happening in the spiritual realm, and I think like there's a lot of non truths. I mean, sometimes I guess some of us say we're all making it all up anyway. So but who cares if we are anyway? Getting back to your point, it's like what's working for you, what feels good, what feels like it's forwarding you, right? I mean,
You said a couple of things that I just want to highlight, because they are things I can tell we have similar teaching styles. And I know what my guides feel like. So you have to build a relationship with them and know what they feel like. I know where they speak to me. I know what their energy is like. I know the minute they walk in, I know where they stand. I know all of that. Now it took a little to build that, right? To build that trust, but I know it like nobody's business. So I know that somebody isn't an imposter in my field. And like you said, it's not like they're coming in and saying, jump off this, or they don't talk poorly about other people. If
mhm,
somebody does something to me that hurts me, my guides will teach me how to stand in the power of who I am without having to even make the other person wrong, because it's not about that. They're like, nope, this is you. There's your boundary. This is what you need to do. They'll teach you. And I stay out of the mass consciousness out there. I just can't even get into it, because when you said, I never heard the Jesus sealed thing, because I just don't have patience for a lot of it, to be honest with you. But I remember somebody coming to me and saying they thought their guide was Archangel Michael, but a psychic out there told them that Archangel Michael was too busy for them. And I was like, that's such a limited consciousness. If
wow,
you're dealing with your guides from a limited consciousness, you're never going to grow that relationship. Their consciousness is so advanced and expansive and infinite. It's constantly shifting and changing. It's like us trying to grasp the concept of God.
right.
You can't grasp the concept of God, because it's infinite intelligence. It keeps growing. Just
Mhm.
like you and I keep growing in our consciousness, and I'm sure your listeners too are growing in consciousness. They wouldn't be listening to you if they weren't very conscious people.
Mhm.
So how could you limit any of that?
Right, right,
That
exactly.
I can't. I'm not a woo-woo person, Daniel. So I'm like the least woo-woo person you ever meet. I would literally be like, get the F out of my face if somebody said, like, I don't even understand those concepts.
Right.
But it's one thing for someone to come in and say, okay, Jesus is sealed, so he doesn't work for me. But to tell you, like, I can't stand that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you're channeling a fake being and putting it on social media too, like
Well, I used to get like, or I'd get the Bible thumpers come after me, and I was like, oh, leave me alone, please.
think I'm clear enough, that to know better and be like, I'm because I will listen to people. I'm like, I'll be like, maybe if I do entertain it, it's like that. I'm like, okay, for a few seconds or something, but I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me. No, that isn't right. Yeah, I've also had people say a question like when they hear me channel, they're like, I don't know, it kind of sounds like you still, when you're channeling, or I've had that. I've had, well, aren't you like they're threatened by it, is what I think. And oh, don't you think it's just another aspect of your personality? And, like that's all it is. There's not anything else to it. I'm like, no, not my human personality, at least. Yeah, we're a conglomeration of lots of energy, right? So yeah, it's interesting the ideas people come up with to try, because I think it's threatening to people that aren't already doing such things, like at one level. Then there's people that say, I don't need guides anymore, I'm way beyond all that. I've heard that one too. There's so many ideas about it, so I don't know, I'm
Oh,
not out there, but yeah.
so I have to go. I love this conversation because it's so funny. The one that said, wait, what was the first thing you said? It was so juicy, and I
uh
had to jump.
like it sounds like
Oh,
you.
the talking in tongues, or that you sounds
Oh,
like you.
yeah.
I'm like, oh my goodness, me too. So when I'm channeling, the only thing that I would say happens to my voice is it becomes less emotional. It's pretty neutral.
Mhm.
So there's not the intonations of a lot of emotional experience in there when they're coming through me. It's very peaceful to me.
Mhm.
There may be not that much of a Brooklyn accent too. Like there's not, because I have more of a Brooklyn accent. I'm not going to speak in different language. I don't have an accent. My head's not spinning around. It is they are using my physical instrument. So of course it's going to sound a bit like me, but the vibration and the energy is them.
Yeah.
And then the other thing about is it an aspect of you? Here's what I would say to that. And I love how you answered it, Daniel. You said like there's of course there's all this different energy. I was like, so beautiful. You have such an open mind to all of this. And I love that. My whole thing is that's a limited thought as well, because we're not allowing something deeper and greater and bigger to come in. I do feel a little separate from them. And I'll tell you, I record my channel sessions because I don't remember anything. And I have
Mhm.
hundreds, if not thousands, of recording sessions. And they will tell me, go to file number 3, recording number 15. And I'll listen to it and I'll be like, oh, that was like a year ago. And everything came true, or things that I didn't even know. And I used to be a reader, right? I was a reader for years. I
Mhm.
have read things, like so many things that people had no clue about that came true. And that's what made me a believer. Something so much where somebody didn't even know, they didn't know that their father wasn't their biological father. They didn't even know this person existed. I gave them the name. I told them where that person lived. And he did a DNA test and found out that was his father. You can't put explanation to that. So why would you lose the magic? I know you believe the same way as I do, but the people that don't want to believe, that's fine with me. And then I know the other people, like I've never heard I'm past my guides, but I have heard I'm working with the other chakra systems. And I'm like, if you don't have the first 7 handled, good luck.
Right. Yeah, that's a good
Because
point.
a lot of these spiritual people can't even walk the earth plane because they're
Right.
trying to like, I couldn't, the whole ascension conversation I couldn't get into either. I was just like, one woman was like, I'm ascending. I can't have lunch with you. I can't go anywhere. I'm like, how are you not living? You need
Yeah.
to live.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean, each
I
their
love
own on
these
that one,
topics.
but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, too, with the 7 chakra. Yeah, I've trained everybody with the 7 chakras, and then you hear people saying, well, it's really 9 chakras we really need to work with these days, and or whatever, and there's thousands and billions of other chakras. Yeah, okay, you want to complicate the hell out of everything, be my guest. I don't think that's going to be helpful. And you're right, people usually are into, I mean, it's fine. I'm not judging them. I mean, I think it's all fine,
No.
but I'm just saying, like, to me, like, you're probably looking to get more and more out of your body when you're saying, like, there's more of these vast energies to tap into the higher realms. We just need to be there. And it's like, yeah, no, you might want to come down here a little bit more too. So, oh yeah.
And I agree. I don't think it's about a judgment. I think we're just giving an opinion because we
Yeah,
found
yeah.
a way that works for us, that we
Right.
get to live our life.
Right.
And for me, what I find is very difficult is grounding the spiritual into the practical. So I like to teach people how to ground the spiritual into the practical, because I've seen way too many spiritual people who can't even leave their house, and they have an incredible gift to offer to the world. And most of the people I work with, they know I'm not woo woo at all. So they work with me because they really do want to bring their gifts to the earth.
Yeah.
And we're super sensitive. I'm a super sensitive person, and I have to really learn how to navigate this planet with the work that I'm doing. And that might not be for someone. Someone may need to live on a mountaintop and not talk to anybody. And that's totally cool if that's what they want.
Right.
But I see a lot of incredibly gifted people out there not getting their work out there, and they want to. If they don't want to, it's okay. But I see the spiritual people that are like, I have this so much. I'm like, you have so much to offer. You're incredible. And I just want to see people bridge that and learn how to embody their physical being while doing their spiritual work.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
And it sounds like you do too. Yeah.
Definitely with you on that 100%. So I've never been one of those, I guess, way woo type
Yeah.
of people. I can get, pretty deep on things for sure, way deep, but this way woo stuff is just not my jam. It's just not me, so, but that's okay. I enjoy that exists, that the people are into that, I love that. So let's talk more about connecting with these guides, and how they serve us, how we can communicate with them, and how ultimately we're serving them and everything, right? So you talk about, like, identifying, like, where they stand with you. I thought that was really interesting. I don't actually do that myself. I might play with that. I don't know that I need it, but, like, it's an interesting concept. I've done that with other sorts of things, like I'll create energy matrices, put in my closet or whatever, and pull it out if I wanted to, like things like that, like doing that kind of energy stuff. But okay, where do my guides stand in my field? Things like that. I just download them. So, like, that's kind of how I do it. I think that would give people a lot more sense of anchoring, security, safety, protection, and confidence. Okay, they're right there. They're right there. So I see, like, that is amazing.
Yeah. And I think you're probably you are at a level, excuse the probably, you're at a level where you don't necessarily need to do that, right? But for anybody who's struggling, it's the way I teach. It's been a really great tool. And for me personally, when I met my guides, things happened like right out the gate for me. As soon as I accepted this type of work, opportunities came like crazy. And I would go into different situations where, big executives in TV wanting to do a TV show, about me. And you walk into these very tense experiences and very nerve-wracking experiences. And because I knew exactly where my guide stood, I was able to rise above the physical experience that was happening, be able to still pitch whatever I needed to pitch, but also tap into my guides right there and then when I had to jump into a reading right away. Or if I went and did a party as a medium, I knew, okay, I'm in a different location than where I normally meditate. Or so here I am, they're my guides. Okay, let's do the readings, because I take everything from my guides. I don't take it from the person. So I do find that it's an incredible tool. And I teach people, like, you don't have to go into deep meditation. Go for a walk while you're doing the dishes, while you're doing the laundry, because some of that mindless stuff is when we're having our biggest communications.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sure for me personally, I was very suicidal and very depressed. And when I found them and found loosely saying my purpose, because I think our purpose shifts and changes and evolves. That's when I had committed to living here. And I think a lot of us struggle with being on this earth plane because we have one foot in another realm and we have one foot here. And we're like, why be here when it's so incredible up there?
Yeah.
And once I kind of bridged it and understood from them why I'm here, it made life so much more fun and so much more manageable, and like right now I'm in a challenge with myself where I'm channeling every single day because I'm going through some major life changes as the time we're recording this.
Mhm.
And some of them are really scary because I'm making very big life decisions, very big business decisions. I'm walking away from things I normally would do, and I'm opening up new doors. And I don't care. I've been in business over 15 years and it's scary. And I am just turning to them, besides other things that I do, I'm turning to them every single day. And their advice blows me away. And I know you have this experience, Daniel.
Mhm.
You can't put a price to it. It is so grounding and it's so good. And it's things I wouldn't even think of. Like I was in the middle of having this huge blow up in my business, really bad. And it was so gnarly. I was so emotionally upset. I went to my guides. Within an instant, they gave me the solution. I stopped the meditation because I had to get out and do it. And I did it right away and it all worked out.
Yeah.
That you tap into that. I want my guides, man.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, like totally the guides. And a lot of times, even when I'm tuning in general, like for clients or maybe myself, but more so when I'm talking to somebody, I'll be like, well, I do. A lot of people do this. I say, well, they're telling me because that's kind of how I see it anyway. Sometimes, like,
Yeah.
it's not me saying that. I always tell people like, this is just what's coming through. I don't know. I'm just telling you what's coming through. And but yeah, it is incredible the message we get. I mean, just the simplest thing for me, just asking Jesus, like, okay, what do you want me to know? Oh, come back in your heart, come back home. Well, to the mind, that doesn't sound like much, but when you're in the energy of it, it's like, oh yeah, thank you. Like it'd be everything in that moment, right? And I've noticed like lately, like with some of the things I'm up to myself, it's so funny. Everything's so synchronistic everywhere, right? And like you coming on talking about guides and everything, and we're talking about channeling a little bit. I've been thinking for over almost 2 years now that I'm going to create a channeling channel on YouTube. Like,
Good. I thought you already had one. So that's where my head was.
well, I kind of do. I do have an old channel out there with Jesus, but I don't have like a full blown thing that I've been imagining, which I won't get into today. But my point is like that's been building, and then it's like people like you come on, we start talking about it, and it's like,
Mhm.
and so my attunement with my spiritual energy just, even though it's probably a lot higher than some people, like it just keeps deepening and deepening
Yeah.
this connection. But yet I'm more, when it started happening in the beginning, of course, you're very ungrounded, but now I'm like so grounded, and now it's coming in, and I think it's so much more, I don't know, I don't have a word to put to it, but it's more manageable for sure. When you feel like you're going to disappear at any moment, like that's kind of a weird feeling, but yeah, so what you're saying about it being the answer prayer, like I'd struggled with anxiety, depression most of my life, and a lot of my life, and those feelings come back in. And yeah, when I'm feeling connected, really get connected, then it's like you really remember. And if you get that going with the grounding, then that's the bomb right there. Then you're like fully like, yeah, we're here, we're doing our thing now, right? So that's like the magic right there. I have a question for you though. I know we only have so much time here today. So people are going to wonder though, and I'm sure your book, the book definitely will give you the instructions, I imagine anyway, but people still might be thinking, but what are you talking about? How do I still don't know. How do I connect with them? How do I talk with them? How do they communicate through me? How does it work? So yes, so can we talk a little bit more about that? Give them some pointers or thoughts, insights around that.
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, I love that you're going to do a YouTube channel that's coming through you, and I feels really good. So I'm just going to offer that up. And I think it's really I think it's really important. And there are a lot of good people out there, and there are a lot of people out there that I don't resonate with at all. I just have to say this. And I believe that everybody is gifted. And the reason why I moved away from doing readings, I don't think there's anything wrong with people getting readings at all. Um, I really wanted to teach people how to do what I do for myself and you do for yourself, right?
Mhm.
And our guides will give us the best business advice. My guides get, I used to have a marketing guide, and he had the best advice, better than any coach I paid money for,
Right.
and they're amazing. And I've paid 30K for coaches. So it's
Sure.
like, they're so good. Coming back to how you can do it in the book, the first part really gives you an idea of how you're your own personal instrument, because the way I see, hear, sense, feel, and know is going to be different than how you see, hear, sense, feel, and know. And you don't want to compare yourself to other people. Oh, I'm not seeing the way she's seeing, or I'm not hearing the way she's seeing, hearing. You really want to learn your instrument and how it works for you. And it's almost like what you said, like, I don't have them stand in a place, I don't need them, but you know who you're talking to, you know their energy, and that's so important. So in the very end of the book, I'm all about teaching an experiential experience. So I give a lot of tips and techniques at the end on how to communicate with your guides. One of the biggest ones I use is breath. So when they're standing in a particular place, I have people send them breath, exhale to them, and feel when you inhale that you're inhaling from them. And you run a couple of cycles of breath where you're exhaling and inhaling, and you're basically then creating an umbilical line, a cord of energy. So
Mm.
then you can see it as a colored cord of energy where you're inhaling and exhaling back and forth with your guide. And you see this cord that's connecting the two of you. You can't help but feel connected to that particular guide. And the more, if you just practice that one simple thing for 7 days, you'll be in communication. And you brought up a very important word that I teach, which is synchronicity.
Mhm.
Everything is information.
Mhm.
So your guides are communicating through those repetitive symbols, and everything's a symbol. Every single thing is a symbol. It has a meaning to you. And I teach a little bit about symbols in here and about the symbolic language of your soul, because Daniel, when you see a red rose, what does it mean to you?
First thing, I think romance, love. I don't know. Those are the first two things.
Right. And for me, it's very tied into Saint Therese and Saint Therese novena and
Okay.
miracles coming to life.
Right.
Whenever I do this with people, we attribute our own meanings to symbols, and our guides are bringing us specific symbols because they know that it has an intimate meaning for us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the more we start paying attention to symbols, and the more we start paying attention to them, and just take a walk with them, breathing with them in that line, and then ask yourself, ask the guide, what do you want me to see? And the first thing you see, just look at it and be like, how do I feel about that? I'm looking at the green leaf. How do I feel about the tree outside my window? I love it. I friggin' love that I see trees. How does, when you ask yourself these questions, and some of this is in the book for sure. A
Mhm.
lot of it's in my podcast too, Who Can It Be Now?
Mhm.
I teach a lot on how to communicate with your guides, and I take you on journeys and stuff like that as well.
That's great. That's great. I love that you brought up the rose, because the one I didn't mention was Mary Magdalene, who's associated with that for whatever. I don't even know why, but I'm not consciously aware of that. But I'm like, okay, maybe I keep bringing her up too. And I just read a book about her that was a lot of channeled information, kind of, and whatnot. But anyway, I'm like, okay, maybe I've been giving more focus to Mary Magdalene. So I'm like, well, maybe there's even more there. So see, like,
Yeah.
why you even said red rose. That's what I mean. It's when we're paying attention, like there's so many, we're getting everything we need, everything's right
Yeah.
there. I just love that. So okay, I wanted to, as we're starting to wrap up a little bit, I was wanting you to just share that about what you said earlier, that we're here for them. We're here for these guides.
Mhm.
Tell us more about that. How is that? How could we possibly be helping them?
So, so you had a little like New York accent there. I felt like,
Got it.
um, when I started channeling, there was a certain moment in my time when I bowed down to them in gratitude, and they bowed down to me. And I went, whoa, what are you doing? And they said to me, you're teaching us as much as we're teaching you.
Hmm.
And they went on to teach me that if we put them on a platform and revered them at such a place where we wouldn't be able to get in the communication that they're looking to get in with us. It's like when somebody wants to talk to the deceased loved one, I really asked them not to start there because they're thinking their father is going to sound the same way that he did on the earth plane. But when we know when people transition, their consciousness shifts and grows and changes, and they
Mhm.
have a different message as they grow and shift and change.
Mhm.
So my guides, that's the first part of it, is my guides have taught me to teach people, don't revere them in such a way that you can't even get the messages or even experience them as this intimate relationship, this beautiful relationship. And then they're doing work wherever they are, whatever dimension they're in, and them helping us is helping them to shift their consciousness or do the work that they need to do as well.
Mhm.
So I teach everything is relationship, and even like listening to you and how you talk about Jesus, it's such a beautiful way, the way you have a relationship with Jesus. And Jesus is, you know, more for me than what I understand of Jesus. And I do love Jesus and pray to him. He's not one of my guides. He's somebody who definitely represents, depending on which side of the Bible you're on, he represents that he never wanted to be revered in a way, that he wanted to walk with you.
Right.
You are him, he is you. And
Right.
so I think that that's a great example of what this is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he said that directly to me. People could say, well, because you heard in the Bible, but like he's like, walk together with me, take my hand, things like that. Like, join me basically is the vibe, sort of thing. Come back home, like it's just so yeah, it's just oh man, it just makes me
And
want
who
to.
cares? Here's the thing. I don't know what kind, I'm hoping you don't get these skeptics around you as much as anymore, but
No, that was years ago, a
good,
lot of that stuff, many
good.
years.
Yeah. I thought so. I didn't think that that was, but I want to bring this up. So it says it in the Bible. That's great. It's different when Jesus says it to you and you're feeling that and you're feeling the love that you're being seen in. Like when my guides are saying, we're here for you as much as you're here for them. That experience, that emotional experience of safety and beauty and unconditional, I get nothing but unconditional love from them. You can't describe that. And on my podcast, I talk about this, and a friend of mine was telling me, I'm like, they're also not sitting above you. Like if I had a boozy night, because I don't drink anymore, but if I had a boozy night and I like slept with someone, they weren't like over my bed going, "What are you doing, you stupid?" Like they're not like that. They help us to understand we're human and why we're having a human experience. And maybe some of the choices we're making aren't the best for us. And they're always there to help us to feel good
Right,
and make better decisions and better choices.
right.
That's, I have so much to say because they changed my life. They changed your life too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, totally. So, okay, well, I'd love to keep going on, but we've got a deadline on our time. So, so anyway, I'd love for you to share where people can find your book and learn more about you.
Yeah. So the book is everywhere. It's called Guides, Mystical Connections to Soul Guides and Divine Teachers. And Marilyn Alauria, my name is going to be on the episode, so you'll be able to spell it.
Yeah.
You can go to my website, marilynalauria.com, and I have many classes on developing guides, as well as Membership for Your Soul, which is a great place to come and do practice circles and learn from people. I have teachers from all over that teach in there. And so you can develop all your skills. It's not just your psychic skills, it's everything. And then as well as my podcast, Who Can It Be Now? So you can learn a lot there. And yeah, it's I get really great feedback from my podcast that people really learn a lot. So there you have it.
Oh, that's great. I think you're just a amazing practical teacher of what you do and much more. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you, but I'm just saying that's a huge gift that you have. It's so practical. It sounds like there's a lot of very hands-on, almost like kind of in a way practical sort of things that you teach people that help them to do it. And I think that's really helpful. Like that I've learned over the years, like some people really need a little extra of that, whereas other people can, oh, hey, just kind of do this, do that, and they're good, right? But other people need a little bit more broken down. So if you struggle at all with connecting with your guides, I highly recommend Marilyn. Just think about the tips she already gave you. Like it's just scratching the surface. So check it out, everything with Marilyn. And if you want to check me out, you can go to Your Sacred Purpose, yoursacredpurpose.com. I've got a meditate, make money meditation, and Man, you bake into that meditation each day. Wow, your energy will go through the roof, and all of a sudden you're not worried about money. All of a sudden you're like, I don't know, I'm in the energy where money's just happening, and and all of a sudden you'll start dropping in. So check that out at yoursacredpurpose.com, and look forward to seeing you there. And Marilyn, do you have any last words for the audience today?
No, I think this is great. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, everybody. So like I always say, thank you for listening in, and keep on tuning in, and we'll keep on rocking it here at Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Till next time, everyone. Bye for now.
Spiritual Rockstar Podcast. Stay tuned for our next upcoming new episodes each Saturday. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to help us to serve you best. As a reminder, you can get your free Meditate and Make Money meditation at www.yoursacredpurpose.com to rock your sacred purpose. Goodbye for now, everybody.